John. I'm from Heritage Tours and Safaris, and today I'll be taking you on a scenic drive through the eastern shores of the iSimangaliso Wetlands Park, which is the UNESCO World Heritage Site situated only about 2 minutes up from town. The aim of this video would be to showcase the park, to talk about some of the tips for game viewing. We'll discuss some of the routes that you're able to take in the reserve and why you should include them on your drive, and also we'll talk a little bit about some of the really beautiful viewpoints and hides that are situated in the reserve. So it all starts off by us heading into Bangazi Gate, which is the entrance to the park, get our paperwork sorted, and we'll get started. So guys, we've entered the park and we've obtained our little park entry permit, which you need to produce on exit again. It's always good to keep these handy, but more importantly they also contain the rules, the do's and don'ts of the game reserve. Very good to read through these so you can familiarize yourself with what and what not to do in the game park. iSimangaliso is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You have to adhere or at least conform to a particular criteria if you want to apply for a World Heritage Site. So there has to be something unique, either cultural aspects or in this case natural aspects. Now, this area has a very high biodiversity of species. It has a number of different ecosystems. We have protected wetlands and a number of endangered species found in the park, and all of these aspects with some others combine to make this area important enough to have been declared a World Heritage Site in 1999. So we were effectively the first World Heritage Site in South Africa. So the Eastern Shores, it is in the southern section of the iSimangaliso Wetlands Park. You can drive from St. Lucia to as far as Cape Vidal Beach. The game reserve itself has a number of off-road loops, well not off-road but gravel roads, non-tarred areas you can drive through, and you'll also be passing through a number of different eco zones. So when you enter the park, you enter fairly open terrain dotted with a lot of wild date palm trees, so what we call palm felt, and you'll find that you might get a number of different bigger species such as buffalo, rhino, the kudu we just saw back there, and keep an eye out for a lot of the bird species that prefer the grasslands, things like the yellow-throated longclaws. Now, one of the first areas to check out is a small gravel loop called Pan Loop, which leads to the Amazubu Pan. Now, being midwinter, things are pretty dry, although we do get a little bit of coastal rainfall in the winter. It's still not our predominantly rainy season, so water is a scarcity and animals tend to concentrate there. So places like these small wetlands, they are often quite productive with animal species, perhaps some hippos. Waterbuck are commonly found around there. Just a lovely sighting of a saddle-billed stork, a very sought-after species of bird for most birders to see. Not a very common bird. It's suggested that their numbers in South Africa have decreased a lot since the 1960s, and some suggest that there are only a few hundred of them left. Reasons being they're still fairly unknown, but habitat loss could be a reason. The fact that they age slowly and breed irregularly, and nesting sites such as large trees are becoming fewer and fewer. as well as perhaps fish populations in our rivers are dwindling. And all of these contributing factors could lead to the decline in a species of a very large and somewhat vulnerable bird, such as the saddle-billed stork. So at first when I drove in here, it looked like there wasn't anything around, until on closer inspection we saw the hippos, as you could see, very well camouflaged in the water over there, just their backs sticking out. Well, that should be a good lesson, that in these types of parks one shouldn't disembark your vehicle where you're not allowed to. There are designated areas for you to exit your vehicle and take a short walk to viewpoints or to hides, but at the end of the day, it's not allowed to leave your vehicle in the park to get a better view of animals. You never know what's laying just behind the bush. Now, these hippos have a few African jacanas, the birds that you see walking over them, likely just picking off parasites, ectoparasites off the skin. Well, there we go, Pan Loop as usual, producing some really good bird sightings. The grey heron, little egret, white-faced ducks, and some African jacanas, as well as the saddle-billed stork just before that. Hippos, they are the norm around the waterholes. Now, the one thing to take note of as well while driving is the fact that most of the loop roads in the eastern shores are one directional. So loop roads such as Pan Loop that we're on and the Flay Loop, which we'll be doing next, they are directional from south to north. So as you're traveling into the park from the gate heading towards Cape Vidal. Now taking the Flay Loop, which is the second loop road off the right as you head into the park after Pan Loop. I like to stay off the tar road section in the morning, as it does get a little bit crowded with vehicles that are maybe perhaps prioritizing the beach or trying to catch the low tide for snorkeling, also launching their boats for fishing. So the main strip can be fairly busy with cars, meaning they very often chase the animals off the road. So doing the loop roads early in the morning when the animals are still active gives you the best opportunity to try and find things. Now, the Flay Loop is one of my favorites, reason being it sort of borders two of the eco zones in the park. On your left or to the west we have a nice beautiful wetland which always produces good bird sightings, but a lot of the bigger grazing animals such as buffalo, rhino, wildebeest are commonly found there. And then towards the eastern side of the loop road you have the lush coastal dune forests, which will obviously give you the opportunity to find some of the more shy and elusive forest species. So it's kind of a best of both worlds scenario here. You might get anything from a red duiker to an elephant. beautiful area to check out on your drive would be Mission Rocks. Two points in particular being the Mission Rocks viewpoint, which is a short walk, roughly about 400 meters into the forest, climbing up some 70 plus stairs to reach the top of a very high forested dune system that will give you a great vantage point from which to view the surrounding area. On the eastern side you will have the Indian Ocean with the potential of possibly even seeing some whales breaching out at sea, and towards the west you will have the spectacular Lake St. Lucia. So let's take the walk and let's go and show you what it's all about. Alright, so we're at the Yumzuki Trail, which is the trail that leads up to Mount Tabor. Beautiful view from up there. We're going to take the walk, which is about a 350 meter walk into the forest. Guys, we are still in a game reserve, so always good to keep your wits about you. We may have some potentially dangerous game species around us. It's always good to be nice and quiet so you can hear the rustling of animals ahead of you. So you may have some early warning if needed. But generally speaking, areas with lots of foot traffic and the human presence does tend to keep animals at bay. But you never know whether or not today might be your unlucky day. So let's go, we'll see you up top. Well, there we go, we made it. It was a bit of a climb, but definitely worth it. So we can enjoy the view from up here. It's really beautiful. We have Lake St. Lucia behind me, and we'll take you around to the ocean side pretty soon. And so the eastern facing part of the viewpoint actually overlooks the Indian Ocean, and this is an incredible spot to actually try and spot some of our migratory humpback whales that migrate along the coastline here between June to November. As they come up here for breeding and calving, one may often see them breaching or jumping from the water. It's a bit far away, but with the help of some binoculars or a zoom lens, keep your eyes open for those really large white splashes in the water and you may get lucky. That's two very interesting sites we've come across now, heading down towards Mission Rocks Beach. One was some dung beetles rolling their dung balls down the road. Of course, always very special to see these little guys hard at work. They are, of course, our decomposers in the bush, taking care of the animal dung by burying it in the soil. They are also taking care of the nutrient cycle and the nutrient needs of the environment. Now, always good not to drive over them. Keep an eye out for the small things on the road, as well as not to drive over the big piles of dung left behind by rhinos or buffaloes or elephants, as a very good chance of some dung beetles actually being inside. Now, the other thing that I'm actually sitting with at the moment is a very special bird indeed. It's called a southern banded snake eagle. These are one of our specialities for the area. They are not exclusive to the iSimangaliso Wetlands Park, but they are very range restricted, and their range is restricted mostly towards the northeastern coastal forests of South Africa. Small patch in Mozambique in which they occur, but this is, I would say, the predominant area to come in and see them on a more regular basis. It's the second species of snake eagle we've seen today, this one being the far more rare forest species, and as the name snake eagle suggests, they are fond of hunting snakes as well as other reptiles such as chameleons or lizards. Right guys, we made it to Mission Rocks. As you can see, a really spectacular stretch of the coastline. We have these very wide sections of sandy beaches, but in some areas where the dunes come right up close to the coastline, the underlying sedimentary rock has been exposed by the wave action, and it creates these short sections of rocky ledges and rocky shores. Really spectacular, but not so great for swimming. They're not really that safe. The waves can easily crash you up into the rocks, but a great place to come and walk around, come and look for some of the life on the rocky shores. I must say the hides are not very productive during the winter months, as this is the dry season, and these wetlands on which these hides have been constructed rely on natural water, groundwater, as well as rainfall in order for them to fill up. And so without an artificial supply of water and them being quite dry, it's just like looking at any other grassland. Hit and miss, you may find some animals grazing around, but the summers are far better. When you have a lot of water, it'll definitely attract more bird species, hippos and other large mammals. Right, we're at Catalina Bay, which is the fantastic lookout situated ideally on the edge of Lake St. Lucia. Gives you a spectacular view of the water. Lake St. Lucia is the largest estuarine lake in Africa, contains the largest population of hippos and crocodiles in South Africa, and a great place just to relax, take a mid-morning or mid-afternoon break, have a coffee, some lunch, just enjoy the scenery. Well guys, it's been a fantastic morning so far, but with so much to include and so much to see, we simply can't do it all in one go. So we are going to end this part here, and we'll pick it up in part 2, where we take you from Catalina Bay all the way up to Cape Vidal, including more of the scenic routes, more of the viewpoints, and more spectacular scenery, including the very scenic and unspoiled Cape Vidal beach. So please stay tuned for part 2. Cheers, until next time.